I officially called off my wedding, evicted my spineless fiancé, and seized his sister's non-refundable $15,000 venue deposit to fund a first-class, 3-week solo vacation to Japan. Right now, my phone is vibrating out of control. My ex-fiancé is weeping into my voicemail, sobbing that I ruined his family's reputation, destroyed his sister's mental health, and left them financially devastated. His mother is bombarding me with furious text messages, calling me a heartless, calculating monster who will burn in hell. But honestly, they started a war they absolutely could not afford to finish. Just drop the final bomb. Before you judge me for completely dismantling a family's dream wedding just weeks before the big day, you need to hear the truth. You need to know exactly how they tried to systematically steal my life savings, and how my fiancé thought being the man gave him the right to hijack my accounts. She earned 6 figures working 50-hour weeks as a senior software engineer, while her fiancé, Mark, worked part-time at a bookstore, claiming he was finding his passion. For 4 years, she bankrolled everything: the luxury apartment, utilities, groceries, streaming services, every dinner date. His contribution? Looking pretty and occasionally taking out the trash when asked 3 times. She believed in supporting his dreams until one afternoon when she found his laptop open. Messages flooded the screen revealing his true intentions. Mark wasn't building a brand. He was building a retirement plan on her dime, bragging to friends about his free ride while mocking her grueling schedule. She didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she gathered every receipt, every bank statement, every condescending message. Then she executed her plan with surgical precision. What she did next changed everything. Would you have done the same? Despite living entirely off my dime, Mark's family possessed unbelievable pride. They are traditional, but only when it benefits them. They believe a woman's duty is to serve and her income is communal property. Yet, when making decisions, the mindset flips. Women must shut up and let men talk. Mark's mother, Helen, constantly made passive-aggressive comments about my masculine career, worrying I couldn't properly clean or cook for her son. This cold attitude dissolved into sickening sweetness the moment we got engaged. Having saved since my early 20s, I wanted an exclusive, elegant ceremony at a historic estate. Securement cost $15,000, featuring a 2-year waiting list. I paid the deposit alone using my business credit card months in advance. Mark didn't contribute a single penny. She built her business from nothing, saved every dollar, and paid $15,000 for her dream wedding venue. What she didn't expect was her future mother-in-law's Sunday dinner ambush. At the table, Helen tapped her glass and demanded the bride-to-be surrender her non-refundable deposit to fund Chloe's wedding instead. Chloe, the unemployed golden child who called herself an influencer, lived off her parents' retirement savings and had a $42 net worth. Helen smiled condescendingly, insisting family means sacrifice. The bride should downsize to a backyard gathering since she had no family ties there anyway. Besides, she made good money and could just earn it back later. The room fell silent as everyone waited for her compliance. But this self-made woman didn't get where she was by bowing to manipulation. She looked Helen straight in the eye, stood up calmly, and said one word that would shatter their expectations forever. Would you have stayed silent or walked away? My jaw hit the floor. Chloe smiled with greedy eyes while her fiancé nodded. Mark stared at his plate, avoiding eye contact. Thinking this was a twisted hazing ritual, I laughed. You cannot be serious. I worked 70 hours a week for that deposit. I am not transferring my venue. The room went silent. Helen's fake smile vanished into a vicious sneer. Slamming her hand down, she snapped, "That is incredibly selfish. Mark, tell your woman how a proper wife behaves." Mark flinched, grabbed my arm, and whispered, "Just say yes now, babe. We can use the backyard. Don't be selfish." I yanked away, grabbed my purse, and walked out. Mark chased me to the car, claiming I was overreacting. I told him the topic was dead. I believed he wouldn't dare push further. I was completely wrong. She believed her fiancé had finally listened, that his family's outrageous wedding demands were behind them, but at 2 a.m, Mark was secretly rewriting her entire future. 2 weeks of flowers and perfection were just a smokescreen. Mark played the devoted boyfriend flawlessly while she relaxed her guard. Tuesday evening shattered everything. She opened her wedding vendor portal and typed her password. Incorrect password. 3 attempts later, she was locked out completely. Her hands trembled as she checked her email and found the automated message timestamped at 2 a.m. Her account email had been changed, security credentials altered, and her booking contract modified without her knowledge. Mark had hacked into her wedding while she slept, executing his family's demands in the darkness. She stared at the screen, realizing the man she planned to marry had just stolen control of her own wedding. Would you confront him or disappear? My blood ran completely cold. Shaking, I pulled out my phone and dialed the venue coordinator. She picked up on the third ring, and I demanded to know what was going on with my account. The coordinator sounded surprised. "Oh, good evening, Mrs. Miller. Yes, we processed the major changes your fiancé requested yesterday afternoon. Per his written authorization, your $15,000 state deposit has been transferred to secure the date for Chloe Miller's wedding this November. The contract name has been officially changed to Helen and Chloe Miller, and your original date was released." I stopped breathing as the room spun. How exactly did he authorize this without my signature or presence? I choked out. "Well, he had your full login details and answered all 3 security questions correctly over the phone," she replied. "He said you were completely on board but too busy with work." She stared at her laptop, frozen, as the truth hit like ice water. $15,000 vanished from their wedding account, transferred to his sister without a word. Mark had stolen her security hints from her personal notebook, cracking every answer she'd trusted would stay private. Her childhood pet's name, her mother's maiden name, her birthplace, all weaponized against her. He walked in humming, carrying expensive takeout bought with her credit card. When she confronted him with the proof, he didn't flinch. He called it an executive decision, his responsibility as the man of the family. His sister's tears mattered more than her trust. His mother's migraines outweighed their future together. She realized then she wasn't marrying a partner. She was marrying a thief who'd chosen his family's whims over their vows before they'd even said them. Would you forgive this betrayal? My blood ran completely cold. Shaking, I dialed the venue coordinator. She picked up on the third ring, and I demanded to know what was going on with my account. The coordinator sounded surprised. "Oh, good evening, Mrs. Miller. We processed the major changes your fiancé requested yesterday afternoon. Per his written authorization, your $15,000 estate deposit has been transferred to secure the date for Chloe Miller's wedding this November. The contract name has been officially changed to Helen and Chloe Miller, and your original date was released to the waiting list." I stopped breathing as the room spun. How exactly did he authorize this without my signature or presence? I choked out. "Well, he had your full login details and answered all 3 security questions correctly over the phone," she replied. "He said you were completely on board but too busy with work." She froze the account and hung up, sitting in stunned silence as the betrayal sank in. Mark had stolen $15,000 from their wedding fund for his sister's venue after cracking her security questions using hints from her personal notebook. He'd guessed her childhood pet's name, her mother's maiden name, and her birthplace, hijacked the account, and gifted her savings away without asking. The front door clicked open. Mark walked in humming, carrying expensive takeout bought with her emergency credit card. She held up the laptop showing the confirmation email and asked, in a dead, quiet voice, if he'd done this. Mark didn't apologize. He smirked, tossed his keys aside, grabbed a soda, and called it an executive decision. He claimed protecting his family was his responsibility as the man. Her silence that followed was colder than any scream. "Would you have stayed?" I stared at him, mesmerized by his sheer delusion. "You stole $15,000 from me, Mark. That is grand theft." Mark waved his hand dismissively. "Babe, stop being dramatic. It's not stealing. We're getting married. What's yours is mine. Besides, you make that much in 2 months of coding. Why be greedy? You have plenty, and my family has nothing. We're doing the backyard wedding, and that's final. I already told my mom, so don't embarrass me." In that exact syllable, something inside my brain completely snapped. The rose-tinted glasses shattered into dust. I looked at the man I had loved for 4 years, the man I had fed, housed, and protected, and realized with horrifying clarity that I wasn't looking at a husband. I was looking at a parasite, a thief who felt entitled to my labor based on a chromosome and an old-fashioned delusion. She felt the exact moment everything crystallized, when Mark smugly kissed her cheek after manipulating another loan for his deadbeat family, acting like he'd just won a chess match against her sanity. She smiled sweetly and agreed, watching his triumphant strut toward his gaming setup. He had no idea she was already 3 clicks into transferring funds to her secret account. While his headset blared and he celebrated with his online friends, she methodically dismantled their shared life. Bank accounts emptied, her name removed from leases, bills redirected, possessions sorted. She moved like a surgeon, precise and emotionless. By dawn, she was gone. The only thing remaining was a single note paperclipped to their drained joint account statement. It read simply, "Family helps family. Thanks for the lesson, Mark." He'd trained her well, just not in the way he expected. What would you have left behind? The word police and grand theft sent the venue management into an absolute, frantic panic. They realized that by allowing a random man to change a contract over the phone using stolen security questions, they had exposed themselves to massive legal liability. The manager took over the call within 2 minutes. He apologized profusely, crying that it was an administrative oversight. By 9 o'clock that evening, I received an official certified receipt in my inbox. Chloe's newly transferred booking was completely canceled. The date was permanently released, and the full $15,000 was successfully reversed and refunded directly back into my bank account. But I wasn't even close to being done. The moment his door closed and she heard him laughing with his friends online, she went to work. She pulled out her phone and dialed the venue coordinator's personal cell. Her voice was ice cold as she explained that Mark Miller, her fiancé, had just committed corporate identity fraud. Every dollar of that $15,000 came from her business account. He had zero legal claim to it. The coordinator gasped as keyboards clicked frantically in the background. She laid out 2 options with surgical precision. Option A: cancel the fraudulent contract under his sister's names, reverse the transfer, and refund everything tonight. Option B: she walks into the police precinct at 9 a.m. tomorrow with bank statements, corporate registry, and email confirmation to file criminal charges against Mark, his sister Chloe, and the venue itself for processing transactions without authorized signatures. They had 1 hour to decide. Would you have done the same? At around 11 p.m., Mark finally emerged from his gaming cave. He announced he was going down to the street-level convenience store to buy some midnight snacks. I didn't say a word. I just nodded and watched him step out of the apartment door. The moment the heavy acoustic door clicked shut behind him, I locked the manual deadbolt from the inside. Exactly 10 minutes later, I heard his footsteps return down the hallway. I heard him input his usual digital code into the lock. Beep, beep, buzz. The lock flashed red. He tried it again. Beep, beep, buzz. Then he began to jiggle the handle furiously. He knocked loudly on the wood. Babe, hey, the lock is glitching. Open up. I walked over to the door, stood right behind it, and spoke through the smart intercom system. My voice was completely calm, smooth, and clear. While Mark screamed at his video game in the other room, she opened her laptop with surgical precision. The luxury apartment lease was entirely in her name because his credit score barely scraped 500 and he had zero income. She messaged the landlord about removing an abusive, non-paying occupant, attaching proof of his lies. Within 30 minutes, his guest access vanished. She grabbed 5 garbage bags and silently cleared every piece of his clothing from the master bedroom. Designer shoes she bought him, vintage jackets she paid for, expensive cologne. She dragged everything to the emergency exit and stacked the bags neatly. Then she opened her smart home app and erased his biometric thumbprint from the digital lock, revoked his access code, and changed the master password. By the time his game ended, he'd lost more than just his match. Was silence her most powerful weapon? I said, "The lock isn't glitching, Mark. Your access is permanently revoked. You no longer live here. If you look to your left, you will see your entire life packed into 5 garbage bags next to the trash chute. I suggest you call your mother to pick you up. If you're still standing in this hallway in 10 minutes, building security will arrest you for trespassing." Absolute, dead silence followed. Then Mark went completely berserk. He started slamming his fists against the door, screaming at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a psychotic bitch, and demanding his gaming computer and setup. I replied through the speaker, "The gaming computer was a birthday gift paid for entirely by my credit card, which is registered under my business account. Legally, it belongs to my corporation. Consider it a convenience fee for trying to ruin my life. Goodbye, Mark." What if the perfect revenge wasn't screaming back, but watching everything crumble in complete silence? She stayed locked behind the door while his phone lit up with the notification. The venue's automated system had just terminated the Miller wedding event due to fraudulent activity and clawed back the entire deposit. $20,000 needed within 24 hours or lose everything. Mark's phone exploded with his mother's hysterical screams. Chloe wailed in the background like a wounded animal. 200 luxury invitations had already gone out to friends, family, and followers, bragging about their elite estate venue. Now they were exposed as frauds who couldn't afford a basic deposit. Mark sobbed in the hallway, begging through the door, pleading that it was just a mistake. She didn't answer. She slipped on noise-canceling headphones, poured expensive wine, and booked first-class tickets to Japan's cherry blossom season. What would you do with your freedom moment? It has been a few weeks since that night. I'm currently sitting in a gorgeous boutique hotel overlooking Mount Fuji, typing out this story while enjoying the most peaceful vacation of my life. Mark is living on his mother's couch because his sister's wedding was completely canceled and moved to a public park. The family has turned into a toxic nuclear wasteland. Chloe refuses to speak to Mark, blaming him for failing to control his woman. Helen is working a part-time retail job at 62 just to help Chloe pay for basic catering. Mark's friends have been spamming my Instagram messages, calling me a heartless monster. They argue that in a serious relationship, finances are mutual, and that destroying a dream wedding over just a deposit is pure evil. They claim I went too far and should have negotiated a compromise like a mature adult. Sarah discovered her boyfriend Mark had secretly charged $23,000 to her credit card, funding his sister's entire wedding without asking permission. While the ceremony was happening, Sarah made one phone call to the venue and canceled everything mid-vows. She then legally evicted Mark from their shared apartment that same evening. Now living in her Tokyo apartment, Sarah shares her story online. Mark wanted to play the powerful provider using a woman's bank account. He learned an expensive lesson about boundaries and financial fraud. Sarah's lawyer just sent a formal letter about the credit damage. The internet remains divided. Some call her justified. Others say she went nuclear. Sarah reads every comment while sipping matcha in Japan, waiting to see if the world thinks the punishment matched the crime. Did this family get what they deserved?